So in this module, it has backgrounds of different theories that we had or that must be tackled, or the foundation of one's human development. Ano po? So here it goes. Of course, still it's your Sir Tony. So through many scientists and researchers approaches the study have approached the study of child development over the last 100 of years. Only a few of those theories that have resulted have stood the test of time, meaning there are just some theories na talagang there are some proven or pinaniniwalaan na talagang it has something to do with the child development. Ano po? So that have resulted and have proven to be widely influential. Among these core group of theories are 5 that will serve as the basis for the documents in this series or in this module. So in order to understand human development, a number of different theories of child development have arisen to explain various effects or aspects of human development or human growth. Some of the major theories of child development are known as the grand theories. Ano yun po yung tawag dun sa mga theories na yun? That they are grand theories. And some of those are known as mini theories. Ano po? So some of those grand theories are like Freud's psychosexual theory, Freud's psychosocial, psychosexual, psychoanalytic theory, Erickson's psychosocial. Ano po? Ayan, next. So let us give a short background of those grand theories. Number 1 is the Sigmund Freud psychosocial theory. So who is this Freud? Ano? He was a Viennese doctor who came to believe that the way parents dealt with children's basic sexual and aggressive desires would determine how their personalities develop and whether or not they would end up well-adjusted as adults. Ano po sabi? Freud described children as going through multiple stages of sexual development. What are those? Sexual development. We have oral, or which he labeled oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So the 5 stages. In Freud's view, each stage focused on sexual activity and that pleasure received from a particular area of the body. Ano po? So in the oral phase, children are focused on the pleasures that they receive from sucking and biting. Ano? Meaning, their mouth is the erogenous zone. So in the anal phase, this focus shifts to the anus as they begin toilet training and attempt to control their bowels. Ano po? So that is why in 3 years of age, they are must trained to pupo themselves in CR. Ano po? Or they could manage themselves in CR, or i-scaffold na natin yung bata na matuto mag-CR with their own. Next, in the phallic stage, it is focus moves to genital stimulation naman and the sexual identification that comes with having or not having a penis. And during this stage, Freud thought that children turn their interest and love toward their parent of the opposite sex and begin to strongly resent the parent of the same sex. That is called or the idea of Oedipus complex. Ano po? As it closely mirrored the events of an ancient Greek tragic play in which a king named Oedipus manages to marry his mother and kill his father. The phallic or Oedipus stage was thought to be followed by a period of latency, and during this period, the sexual urge and interest were temporarily non-existent. Finally, children were taught to enter and remain in the final genital stage, in which adult sexual interest and activities come to dominate. Another part of Freud's theory focused on identifying the parts of consciousness. Freud thought that all babies are initially dominated by unconscious, instinctual, and selfish urge for immediate gratification, which he labeled as the id. Ano po? As babies attempt and fail to get all their whims met, they develop a more realistic appreciation of what is realistic and possible, which is called the ego. Ano po? Babies also learn about and come to internalize and represent their parents' values and rules. These internalized rules, which he called the superego, ano po, are the basis for the developing child's conscience that struggles with the concepts of right and wrong and works with the ego to control the immediate gratification urge of the id. That theory is called psychoanalytic. Ano po? So, pag-aaralan pa po natin siya for our next module. Ano po? Module number 5. By today's rigorous scientific standards, Freud's psychosexual theory is not considered to be very accurate. However, it is still important and influential today because it was the first stage development theory that gained real attention, and many other theorists used it as their starting place for their theory. Ayan. So if you could see in your screen, ayan. So that is the short summary of Freud's psychosexual stages. During the oral stage, it was during birth to 1 year. Ano, of course, the erogenous zone is the mouth, ano, through sucking and biting. And next is the anal stage, 1 to 3 years of age. Of course, the erogenous zone is bowel and bladder control. Next, we have phallic stage, 3 to 6 years of age. The erogenous zone is the genitals. And latent stage, 6 to puberty. Ano po, libido inactive. And genital stage, puberty to death or maturing sexual interest. Ano po? Developing the attraction between the opposite sex. So next is the Erik Erikson psychosocial theory. This will be tackled on our module number 7. So it has 8 stages. I will give you the short background. Ano po? So we have here, the first one is the infancy. Ano? Trust versus mistrust ang nabubuo pong values or traits ng isang bata. Next is early childhood. The values is autonomy versus shame and doubt. And preschool, initiative versus guilt. And during the school age, we have industry versus inferiority. And during the adolescence period, identity versus role confusion, whereas the child is, or that particular individual is asking, sino ba talaga siya, ano ba talaga siya, ano, that is during the adolescence. And of course, next is young adulthood, intimacy versus isolation, whereas that is the time when a particular individual is deciding to just be a single, or there is someone who can be with him forever, sana all. So next, middle adulthood, generativity versus stagnation. That is the period naman when you are training someone na maging like you, ano ba, mahusay kang tao, ganyan. Ano po? And that is generativity. No, sa stagnation, kumbaga, that is the period naman whereas you are now okay na, ano, stagnant ka na, okay na, yan na yun. Hindi ka na mag-generate or mag-learn pa ng so many more. Ano po? Next is maturity. Ano? The values is ego, integrity versus despair. And that is the last period of, or the last stage of Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. So next, we have two now already. Ano po? Jean Piaget's cognitive development. So in this stage, in this theory, it will be tackled on module number 6, as you can see. Ayan. So Piaget's stages of cognitive development has 4 stages. Ano po? Number 1 is sensory motor stage, whereas it's happening during birth to 2 years of age. And pre-operational stage is 2 to 7 years of age. And the third level or stage is concrete operational stage, which is happening during 7 to 11 years of age. Ano po? So, and the last is formal operational stage, 12 and up. Ano po? So Piaget's stages of cognitive development, meaning this development or theory is pertaining to our mind, cognitive, ano po, cognition. Next is Kohlberg's theory of moral development, whereas it is will be tackled on module number 8, ano po. And Kohlberg's theory of moral development has 3 stages talaga, but then it has 6 steps, ano po. So in the level 1, pre-conventional, younger than 6, step 1 and step 2. In the step 1, is punishment and obedience orientation, whereas you obey rules to avoid punishment. Ano, sunod ka ng sunod kasi natatakot kang parusahan. That is the step 1. Step 2, naive hedonism, or you conforms to get rewards and to have favors returned. Kumbaga, you are just following because there is something to give back to you. Ano po? And step 3, good boy or good girl morality. You conforms to avoid disapproval or dislike by others. Ano? You're just following because they are telling you na ay good boy ito, good girl ito, kaya nagpapakabait. Ano po? That is under the step 3. And step 4, you conforms to avoid censure by authorities. Ano? Kasi natatakot ka kasi merong huhuli sa iyo or uusig sa iyo kapag may ginawa kang mali. Ano? That is under level 2, conventional level, 7 to 11 years of age. Ano po? And let's go with the step 5. You conforms to maintain communities or emphasis on individual rights. Ano po? Kumbaga meron lang kasing batas, ano na talagang tawag ito, nakaamba, kumbaga ay kung pag hindi ka sumunod, may batas or mayroong there is a punishment na under ng ng government or ng community na pwedeng maging sanction mo as an individual kapag hindi ka sumunod. Ano po? And next is individual principles of conscience. Ano po? Under the step 6. Ayan. You are now following kasi kumbaga konsensya mo or prinsipyo mo talaga siya kaya mo ginagawa yung isang bagay. Ano po? May pagpapakabuting tao. That is fall under level 3, post-conventional, 11 years onwards. And of course, meron din po tayong Albert Bandura Social Learning Theory, whereas there's an illustration given. So whereas this illustration stated that Bandura Social Learning Theory poses that people from one another or learn via observation, imitation, and modeling. And people learn through observing people, and of course, people learn through observing others' behavior, attitudes, and outcomes of those behaviors, which is also called as observational learning. Ano po na tinatawag? Next is we have Lev Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory. And the major theme of Vygotsky's theoretical framework is that social interaction plays a fundamental role in the development of cognition. Ano po? Meron daw pong tinatawag na social interaction kaya natututo yung isang bata. Ano po? And every function in the child's cultural development appears twice. First is the social level and the latter on the individual level. The first between people or psychological. Ano po? And then inside the child, intrapsychological. And this applies equality or equal or voluntary attention to logical memory and to the formation of the concepts or of learning. All the higher functions originate as actual relationship between individuals. A second aspect of Vygotsky theory is the idea that the potential for cognitive development depends upon the zone of proximal development or the term called or the abbreviation ZPD. Ano? A level of development attained, ano ba yung CPD? ZPD, a level of development attained when children engage in social behavior. And that full development of the ZPD depends upon the full social interaction ng isang bata. Ano? To the highest level yung pakikisama, pakikisalamuha, whereas he learned something. He learned a lot through social interaction according to Lev Vygotsky. The range of skill that can be developed with adult guidance or peer collaboration exceeds what can be attained alone. And Vygotsky theory was an attempt to explain consciousness as the end product of socialization. For example, in the learning of language, our first utterances with peers or adults are for the purpose of communication. But once mastered, they become internalized and allow inner speech or more knowledge or more sobrang mahusay yung bata in terms of speech. Vygotsky theory is complementary to Bandura's work on social learning and a key component of situated learning theory as well. And because Vygotsky's focus was on cognitive development, it is interesting to compare his views with those a constructivist by Brunner, Jerome, and genetic epistemologist by Jean Piaget. Ayan. illustration given. So nandito yung bata at the center. Let us illustrate. Yung bata is in the center and kailangan niya ng interaction. And the zone of proximal development is in between. Ano po? So kailangan niyang ma-reach yung mga kailangan niya magkaroon ng interaction, malampasan pa kung kaya pa niya yung zone of proximal development to make him a very well learned or talagang mahusay na bata. Ano po? After niyang ma-reach yung mga task given by instructors or by kung sino man. Ano po? So that is the end of our module number 4. And please just what do you call that? Follow yung next module natin, module number 5. Ano po? So please wait for my upload. Thank you.